Notre Dame is 100-0 in hypothetical matchups this season. So look that up. 100-0 in hypotheticals.
And they're looking good for next week too. So
Yeah. Now I want to talk directly to those bitch ass Buckeyes real quick, okay? Terry Porter isn't walking through those doors to save you. Okay? We got 23 years of biblical fucking karma coming your way. It's going to be 4 quarters of pure hell.
Welcome back to the show. This is the Fake Momentum podcast where we break down college football's weekly events through the eyes of Florida's big 3 college football teams, Florida, Florida State, and again, the team leading the way in the state right now, the Miami Hurricanes. The first round of the playoffs is in the books. Saw some surprising things with what Alabama did, some not so surprising things with the way that the G5 performed. And obviously, all these guys want to talk about is that noon kickoff yesterday and the thrilling offensive performances we got from those teams. So we're going to get to it with takes, arguments, and talking about some fan bases that got left out, maybe talking shit a little bit too early. This week on the pod, again, we've got our resident Hurricanes. We've got Derek, Roley, and Dirk. Thanks for joining us, boys.
Thank you.
My name's Anthony, and I'm unfortunately the moderator again for today's discussion. So let's just get into it. Let's get this herd over with, boys. Let's talk about the first one, right? Alabama, Oklahoma, okay? Obviously, everybody knows, big deal about Bama getting in. Dirk and I were talking plenty of shit via text about Alabama in the first half, but obviously they turned it around. Any surprises by what you saw, Derek? How do you feel about the game as a whole? Did you feel like people were vindicated in the first half? Like, give me your thoughts.
yeah, I mean, definitely watching it, you started thinking like, oh, here we go. Like, did Bama truly deserve to get in? Obviously 3 losses. Now the conversation about, Alabama and Notre Dame starts getting raised again. But at the end of the day, man, like it was a pretty even matchup. And I think when it came down to it, even though Oklahoma took that early lead, kind of thought it was over. It just came down to the fact that they just didn't have enough offense, and that was always their biggest issue going into playoffs. And they just weren't able to keep up with Bama in the second half. They got going, and just, it was kudos to them, and they played a good game, and they deserved that win. And I don't think Notre Dame would have done any better. So.
Okay, so on that topic, Dirk, like I said, you and I were loving that shit early. And Notre Dame fans were like loving it but mad at the same time, right? So how quick do you think their like happiness and revelry turned into like fuck and panic like after that happened? What do you think about that from their perspective?
I mean, they had us in the first half, right? No, I'm sure that they were in their feels in the second half, just like they've been in their feels since Election Sunday. But you know what? I did hear a stat the other day after that game. Notre Dame is 100-0 in hypothetical matchups this season. So look that up. 100-0 in hypotheticals.
And they're looking good for next week too. So
yeah. So early spread has them favored hypotheticals next week too. Honestly, we talked about it on the pod last time, about teams that were kind of like on the bubble and got in, didn't get in. And at least a couple of us said, hey, Oklahoma should probably be in those teams that should get that second look because that offense is so dog shit. And it showed up. So it is what it is. Notre Dame has to go ahead and watch Alabama continue their playoff run, watch Miami continue their playoff run. And I'm here for it.
Dude, and that offense really broke their backs on that 3rd and 3 that Mateer has a ton of space, lofts that ball. And the running back or whoever it was just biffed it. Roley, what do you think it says, right, about Notre Dame's position, right, that they were saying put us in over Bama? Let's talk about just Bama specifically, not Miami, right? Put us in over Bama. We deserve it more. What do you think this week's game did to that argument, right? Because at the end of the day, they turned up, they went on the road, and they won kind of comfortably. So do you think it weakens their argument?
No, complete vindication, I think, for Alabama's side. I think it's really impressive how they, how that game script actually happened. Obviously, the quick going down 17-0, 27 unanswered. That's extremely impressive on a road environment and a big ruckus house like Oklahoma. Also, let's remember that these teams played each other. They already have gone through, they have a tape from their exact game. Obviously, Bama was victorious in that game, but it looked a little different compared to Friday. It was really surprising to me, just the overall score, the box score at the end of it, with how much offense there was at different points in the game. But overall, it comes down to Oklahoma not being able to put drives together and sustain drives at the end. And Bama definitely showed that they belong in. I think it's a vindication to both those teams. I know we're not getting into Miami yet, but it's crazy hard to go on the road into a ruckus environment, a playoff game, go against those road teams. Both teams did it, so both teams vindicated. I believe both teams had a rightful spot in the playoff.
All right, and that's what I wanted to ask too. Do you feel like with just Bama, do you feel like Bama proved the committee's point by winning? All three of you, just briefly.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Hard to say that after a win. I would have loved to hear like Kirk Herbstreit argue for them about having a good loss if they would have lost to Oklahoma and how maybe they should move on to the next round, but I guess we'll never know.
Quality losses.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's talk about the next two games like kind of together, right? I don't think they really deserve individual attention. Obviously G5, we all kind of like get behind the stories of the G5 and you feel like they should have a chance, right? Because every now and then there is a G5 team that can actually play. And like we see things, right? Like when Tulane beat USC in that bowl game a year or two ago, like we see G5, they come around and then they do some things sometimes, right? But no one's surprised by what happened yesterday with those results. And it feels stupid sometimes now when you watch those games and you're like, why did we have these guys in? Like, we all knew what was going to happen here. Now that argument turns into, is it the 12 best teams, really, if we're giving people a free pass, right, that maybe don't deserve it? So, Rolly, do you think that those games proved that G5's just not ready to be in the playoffs, or what do you think?
Yeah, it's got to be completely reevaluated. I just can't think that the committee or any of the decision makers moving into next year will agree with keeping the same exact format that the Group 5 or the 5 highest conference titles, because potentially you have a scenario with a chaotic Big 12 and a chaotic ACC that you have what happened this year, and you get the two Group of 5 teams. And, one of them was a rematch. We saw how that Ole Miss Tulane game went the first time around during the regular season. We knew that game was going to be, and we knew JMU just, didn't have the bodies and the personnel to keep up. At the end of the day, it should be about the 12 best teams regardless. Of course, there's always going to be some of those teams every now and then. Like, definitely you can make that argument for Boise last year, and 100%. They had a Heisman, they had bigger bodies, they had more line of scrimmage play last year, but it needs to be more of like an automatic bid situation, and the team actually has to qualify on the merit, the personnel, to actually compete with the other teams in this playoff. If not, we're just going to have these two warm-up games, and those teams, I believe, are honestly in the best position moving forward into this playoff because they got a tune-up game. They didn't have to have, we saw last year with all the teams in the bye that had the bye, they all lost. So these teams, even though they didn't get a bye, they were able to have a little tune-up game going into a real opponent next week. So I think that's only advantageous to them. So definitely think it has to be reevaluated overall.
Yeah, Derek, like at what point does deserving to be in get replaced by best team, best competitive matchup, right? Because other than your game, I didn't watch any of the other games. Like, what does that do on a great weekend where people can do nothing other than sit around and watch college football? So at what point do you think like deserving to be in should be trumped by actually has like a chance?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously like a really hard answer to question to answer because at the end of the day, like, we've seen upsets, we've seen crazy things happen, and these are at the end of the day like children playing a sport, and mistakes are going to happen. You see it in the pros. I just think when it comes down to it is when you have such a large difference in size and athleticism and skill, it could happen in one game. But like realistically speaking, are these guys going to go through a gauntlet of 4 games in a row against Power 5, Power 4 conferences and just like actually like win? Like, do they really have a chance to win a championship? I mean, you can argue there's probably maybe only like 3 to 4 teams that even have a chance. Like, we'll see now. Texas Tech and some other teams are like, how realistic is it? Everyone likes to try to compare it to the basketball, right? Basketball, March Madness and the Cinderella stories. Cinderella story has never won it. The highest seed it's ever won the championship was like an 8 seed, and it was UConn, which is technically a blue blood. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I think there's a world where they deserve to like have an opportunity. Maybe, you have to be a certain ranking to qualify. I don't know what the answer to that is. Uh, but I will say though, the biggest takeaway I got from those two games is I'm really happy for Ole Miss. I'm not a Ole Miss fan at all. I could care less about them. But after what they had to go through with their coach and all that stuff, like I'm glad they were kind of like you can tell the team rallied around their coach and like put some effort in because you know that was a big conversation coming into playoffs, and I'm glad they're able to get away. We'll see. There's definitely gonna be changes. I mean, they're gonna let Notre Dame in next year. They're top 12 already. Like, there's already some of that stuff happening. So there'll be changes. What that is, what the answer is, I have no idea.
I totally agree with you about Ole Miss. Like I said it on our last pod. That's kind of the Cinderella story I'd like to follow. But did you see that they wore the uniforms that apparently Lane hated the most? That he never wore them.
Petty
So they're like,
baby, love
I
it.
dude, I aspire to that. Like I
Yeah.
aspire to that level of petty. I love
Yeah,
that
the
shit.
the Ole Miss LSU rivalry is just taking like they're taking each other's coaches. Like they're like they like it's getting super petty. But at the end of the day, these players they worked their butts off all year to make it to this point. I'm glad they were able to stay in. And I'm glad they got at least one win. So good for them.
I That's why I think college football is so special. Like the level of petty that people get to is just so fucking different. Like I don't know if it was real. I don't know if you saw. I saw apparently there was like a Florida State fan who went to A&M yesterday.
Pretty sure it was real.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I saw that everywhere.
Um, Sucks for him because he had to sit in it, but I love that dude. I love that stuff.
100%.
So it's the best. And I think what you brought up about the tournament, like this is so different than basketball. And I'm not saying that it's your argument, right? But um, this isn't a thing where like FGCU can just like make a run, right? Or like some team gets hot from three and beats the number one seed. Like this is a game where physicality, size, and players
Hmm.
just matter at some point, right? So, um, whatever. Dirk, do you think that Notre Dame and like BYU fans have a legitimate argument about that they should have been in the playoff after watching those two games? I know this is your favorite fan base to talk about, and you'll do anything to defend them. So I want to give you a chance to do that.
That's true, right? They have a special place in my heart. No, but I will say this. Look, facts keep the conversation short. So in Notre Dame and BYU's defense, Power Four versus G5 in the playoff, Power Four 92 points to 44 points. That doesn't exactly scream competitiveness. James Madison had two games all season against Power Five opponents, including that playoff, and the combined scores were 79 to 48. They lost both of those games. So when we talk about, BYU and Notre Dame, I think both of them would have been a lot more competitive in each of those games yesterday. So when we talk about getting the most competitive, most viewership, but really the best 12 into the field and see what happens, I definitely think James Madison didn't belong. I can make a case for Tulane because at least they did beat a couple Power Five teams throughout the year. Fine, maybe. Think BYU's a better team. So if you replace those two with BYU and Notre Dame, maybe things are different. Maybe they're not, but I think it would have been much more competitive.
You think Notre Dame wins either one of those games yesterday against Ole Miss or Oregon?
I don't.
I think
I
they could beat
don't.
Ole Miss. I think they may be able to beat Ole Miss.
I
Yeah.
think Notre
Even then.
Dame's resume is built on great losses. So maybe they have another great loss and then make a case to move on. But as far as great wins, they're not there.
I love it. I love it. So, and just quickly, do we think, yes or no, do we think that G5 teams should have an automatic spot in the playoff, Dirk?
I don't think an automatic spot. I think that,
Just
they
yes or
should
no?
have some kind of consideration. So no.
All right.
Nope.
Rolly, just yes or no?
No,
G5 teams, automatic qualifier.
no, I think they should almost have their own tournament. Honestly.
I love you guys. Derek,
No.
my man.
Well, actually, no. I'm just
All right, guys, let's get to what you all really, really wanted to talk about, and that is Oregon. No, we will talk about the Miami game.
not
I
yet.
know all of you guys were really, really confident, right? Last week. Well, pretty confident. Dirk, obviously, the most. I think you two were a little bit more like tempered, but pretty confident about how you felt going into College Station. Did that get shaken any point in the first half? If so, when? And then when did you start to feel better again? Rolly, let's start with you.
I wouldn't say in the first half. I didn't feel that. I felt that we were still controlling the trench play. We were still making him uncomfortable at different times. They definitely had like one shot over the top. But we're a bend don't break defense, and our defense is elite, and our defense is going to keep us in every game. So at some point, I thought it would shift. It was frustrating, the wind conditions and those missed field goals. I do think, the way the scoreboard played out, the game probably should have looked a little different if a couple of those kicks find a way to go in. I could have seen. I was more expecting like a 17 by the end of it, 17-3, 17-7 score. Still low scoring. That's obviously what the game ended up being, a defensive battle. But no, I didn't. The only time that I definitely had a moment of anxiety, like hard anxiety that, wow, this may not work out for us, was the Malachi fumble. Glad how they responded. Glad the defense got a hell of a stop. How many stops was it at that point for them? But the team as a whole, they made the plays when it counted. And it was defensive gauntlet, and it was awesome game to watch. It honestly didn't even feel like a low-scoring game, even though it obviously was and never got anything. It was there was just playmaking all around on the defensive side of the ball for both teams. I definitely think that our trench play was going to show by the end of it, and we'd find a way to get it done.
Derek, talk to me about it. Did you have an emotional roller coaster, confidence roller coaster?
Yeah, so I felt pretty good in the first half for the most part. The first moment where I was like, "Oh man, this might be a problem," was once when the punt return Malachi got tripped up, and then essentially we had to settle for like a 40-yard field goal where he shanked it, where it kind of looks like me hitting off the tee, where it's like you hit the house and you're just like, "Oh man," like it wasn't even close. And the only reason why is because I felt, especially on that drive, and I guess we'll get a little deep diver into it. Like in the first half, it kind of felt like Shannon Dawson, which we've seen in the past, had like no feel for the play call at all. It's like we're running it with Fletcher, and he was doing really well, 8 yards, 10 yards, boom, and then he'd throw in like a random like screen or like one of those like trick plays, and they weren't really falling for it. And I kind of was like, man, like I get it, because that's kind of what had been getting us there in the second half of the season, but it felt like the game plan just didn't call for that. Like Texas A&M has their issues on defense to stopping the run, but one thing they're really good at is they're very disciplined, and they don't really give up a lot of big plays. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like those trick plays weren't there to be had. Obviously there's literally like hurricane gusts going on. So that was kind of like the first time where I was like, man, like we're missing the field goals. Like we're missing 32 field goals. Like it kind of felt like the defense was giving it their all, and the offense was kind of sputtering. And then it just felt like the feel for the play calling was just not there by Shannon. And I was like, oh, okay, no, this is gonna like, realistically speaking, like Texas A&M averages almost 40 points a game. Like our defense is incredible, and they'll keep us in every game. But like they would have given up one touchdown, like you can't get mad at that. It would have been a very normal thing to happen.
Right.
That definitely, and then in the second half, especially when we came out in the first drive and kind of like reestablished that run game and reestablished it. I know we ended up not scoring in that first drive, but that kind of got my confidence back up. Where I was like, okay, as long as we take care of the ball, we should come out with a win. Even though it was going to be like 6-9 or something like that.
They had more yards on that drive than they did for the entire first half, and it was like, all right, they found something.
And it was just it was a lot of the play call, like the timing. I love the Malicat. Like it's a big part of our
Man,
offense, and
it felt like it got shut down.
It just felt like the timing of everything was like, all right, hand off to Fletch, and we got like 6 yards, 7 yards. All right, like then let's do it like a triple reverse. Like that was like I don't know. The timing of it just kind of it felt like Dawson didn't really have a good feel for the play calling in the first half. In the second half, it got a little better, and they were also establishing a lot more like the short curls, like throwing it to like short plays, like a lot of less like long developing pass plays, which obviously with the wind the way it was tough. But once the second half started and we started that with that big drive, I felt a lot more confident.
It's funny too what you said about Dawson's play calls, because what you guys have been doing towards the end of the year is kind of what people had been clamoring for, right? Stop with the boring run up the middle. And then yesterday, I was
just a gap for life.
Dude, that's what you guys, that's what you
guys. That's what won. That's what won.
I mean, dude, Fletcher was eating all day, man. Like, that kid is such an angry runner. And just shout out to him, like, as a Seminole fan, like, that kid's awesome. I've complimented Dirk about that Fletcher for years. He's such an angry runner. He's fast for his size. Like, good for him. He really deserved it. And happy to see Tony, who's such a special player, get a chance to redeem himself, because I felt so bad for that kid after that fumble, man.
Yeah.
You know, he's such a special player. You guys obviously wouldn't be there without him, and even as a rival fan, I'm happy to see that kid get his redemption, because he really deserved it. Dirk, I know you were never worried the entire game, so talk to me about the confidence roller coaster that you were on in yesterday's matchup.
Never a doubt. I said it before the playoffs started, before we were selected. I said it after we were selected. I said it when we knew we were going to College Station. I like us. It could have been 80,000, 110,000, a million. I don't care. I like us. And you know what? It showed. So that offensive lineman that was talking about, oh, I'm not worried about Ruben Bain. Well, Hurricane Bain had a day.
That he did.
So someone needs to go and check on my boy, because he
And
needs
Akeem
someone to
cooked
witness
that kid.
protection. He sure did. He sure did. So don't be writing checks that you can't cash. God bless.
I really hope that I can insert the picture of Dirk hiding behind a couch during that game as he's going on that rant about his no problem.
That's AI generated.
Nowadays. So I think this is going to be a short and easy answer, and I would agree with what you guys are going to say. Miami vindicated the committee's decision with yesterday's win, right? You all think that?
100%.
If
Toughest
this
road
were if this were
environment in the
A&M,
playoffs.
if this were Alabama, LSU, this would have been viewed as an all-timer SEC gauntlet. Like, how many historic SEC games were 9-6, and now we're praising Nick Saban for being a god. You know what I'm saying? Like, we went in, we played SEC ball. It was ugly, but we came out the win. Like, of course, yeah,
Dude, you didn't
100%
play
vindicated.
SEC ball. They averaged like 32 points in the SEC. You guys kept them to 3. So
Old school
if you
SEC ball.
played SEC ball, dude, they would have scored 32 points on you.
Yeah,
Absolutely ridiculous. Marcel Reed cannot throw a football.
But
Jesus Christ, he looked
but
like
that's
a
honestly, and that's why I was the most confident going into it, because I felt that our D line was going to be better than their O line. We were going to make the kid uncomfortable, and the kid would start making mistakes, and it played perfectly to the script. It's just I expected our offense to kind of build a lead at the same time while that was happening. Yeah,
Yeah. And then you kind of
Marcel
got lucky
Reed
that
throws a great
they
ball,
didn't
bro.
do that.
right.
He throws a great ball when he's throwing up Bryce Fitzgerald. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful ball,
beautiful.
beautiful ball.
Beautiful.
Nice outside
Those
shoulder.
throws were so off target. Like, it's insane, man. It's insane that they put up so many points in the SEC. And again, I was texting Dirk, right? And after you guys started spying him, it was over. I mean, it was over.
He
He
couldn't do
couldn't
anything.
run. He had that escape early in the second half, I think it was, where he rolls right and there's nothing but 5 defenders there. I was like, what are you gonna do? And then, like, I think he couldn't throw the fucking ball to save his life. That one play that got overturned, and I mean everything. Jesus, that kid sucked. So let's talk about the obvious lack of offensive fireworks, right? Look, and I'm not disparaging you. A win is a win. I don't care if you score 2 points and you win on a safety. A win's a win, right? And I know obviously you guys are riding high off the win, but take a moment, take the green and orange glasses off. How do you feel about yesterday's performance from a big picture perspective? Obviously, like Derek talked about, big wins, they caused, problems for the offense, but it didn't look great from an offensive performance. How do you feel about that? Do you think that it's a one-off? Does it cause you concern going into the next game, Dirk?
Listen, elite teams find a way to make it work. Offensively, it was a tough day. I think some of the wind and not being able to stretch the field vertically really shrunk the field. So we had to work short, intermediate routes, screens that, I didn't love. But the offensive line found their way to manhandle their defensive line, especially in that second half. And we got back to that bully ball in the run game. So seeing that come back, definitely encouraging. And I think, for our offensive guys would give us confidence moving forward. I think it should open up the field a lot too. We're playing indoors next week, so I think the offense will be fine. Beck has had one really bad game all year, and since that Louisville game, I'd give him the benefit of the doubt. He really hasn't put the ball in harm's way too bad.
He wasn't bad yesterday per se. Like, again, it was just a really
He
harsh.
was a manager yesterday, like 100%.
Yeah. They didn't ask too much from him.
No.
So Rolly, same question for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I probably that worry existed even before this game a little bit. We've definitely had moments throughout the year that our offenses just they have gotten stagnant. And of course, everything that we were clamoring for the last 5 weeks, we definitely got with the creativity. But the reality is this is playoff ball now. You know, every team has athletes, every team has amazing trench play, and our style may have to look a little bit more given each matchup, obviously matchup dependent, a little bit more like how we did earlier in the year. I definitely agree with Derek, and I wanted to piggyback off that a little bit with what Shannon was doing and not reading the game right. He actually alluded to it in his post-game presser. He said he wasn't finding, didn't seem like he was finding the rhythm, or that they couldn't get anything going there. They were trying everything, and then he realized that Mark was like 12 for like 80. And that's when he realized, oh, we got to lead into A gap. That's what's working. Mark's power run game. And that's at the end of the day, that's our most, that's really what we are. That's our identity. That's the most identity. That is the most Mario identity, that power run game. So it's just really impressive to me either way. What actually doesn't bring me worry yet is the fact that we can win in multiple ways. You can win a defensive slugfest like that. You haven't had to be in, a high scoring, high punch 40 game like that Texas A&M Notre Dame game necessarily yet, but you have shown that you can put up offense at different points of the year as well. So I just think it's a stylistic thing. I think it's a matchup dependent thing. And at the end of the day, this is playoff ball. If we have to go in and grind games like that, I feel confident with our defense that we can kind of put it all together and find different ways to win for sure.
That's definitely a good way to look at it. No matter what it takes, you've gotten it done. So that's a good perspective. Derek, same question.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with most of the stuff that was already said, so I won't add too much there. The only two things that I would add is one of the things that is encouraging is Beck in the past has gotten in trouble when he's tried to do too much. And this was like perfectly being set up for like, I'm going to call my number and I'm going to win this game because nothing else is working. I'm going to force it deep into triple coverage. And he really didn't. He just stuck to his game, turned around, hand that ball off, made throws when he needed to make throws, like very like safe throws. And I'm glad he's able to kind of like get over that hump a little bit, where in the past, especially in Georgia, we've seen that issue. And then the only thing there concerning, obviously, aside from everything else that's been mentioned, I don't need to repeat all that again, is I don't know if it was the scheme or necessarily talent, but it felt like the wide receivers were never really open. I don't know if it was just a lot of pressure. It kind of felt like that was kind of one of the big question marks going into years, our wide receiver core. Obviously, Malachi changed that for a lot, but he still at this point gets a lot of his touches very gimmicky, as opposed to like just straight up, let me run a route, let me go win a route one-on-one. And it really felt like Marion and Daniels, they had their moments, but it wasn't like they were just cooking people. Same thing with Josiah Trader. He had that one deep one, but he barely even played. So I do see how that's going to hold up against Ohio State. Because at the end of the day, like, these guys are going to have to get open and win a one-on-one matchup and make a big play. Like, if we're going to not only just win the next game, but moving forward. So that was really my only biggest concern from that. But they found a way to get the win, and we protected the ball, no interception. So I'm overall happy, but definitely some mixed feelings.
I think that A&M defense really came to play, man. They were getting after Beck. They were bringing pressure from a lot of different places. They were bluffing pressures. They were backing out. They would show pressure from one place. Beck would come to the line, kill, make a change, and then you'd see Texas A&M then audible in response to his audible. And yeah. I mean, so I agree with you. I thought at some point this guy's going to force a shot, but he didn't do it.
Their third down package, like we heard about that third down package all week from A&M boards, like that's legit. I mean, he's extremely creative on third downs, and exactly what you said, and he's able to audible out mid-play, and linebackers able to make a change, and they're able to, get a hat on hat and get an advantage every time. Their third down is legit, and it showed.
And that's what I kept watching, right? Like, just as a neutral fan who was watching on those third downs, you'd see people creeping down from all these different areas, and then one backs out. It was really something to watch for sure.
Well, define neutral fan.
No, I'm neutral. I try to be. Someone's got to balance you guys a little bit. So, all right. Before we talk about your next round matchup, let's just briefly hit on the others.
Wait, Anthony, I have a quick question for you, just stemming on that same.
Yeah.
Just at this point, just one win in. We only have a win over Texas A&M. We play Ohio State. You as a Florida State fan, Are you getting scared yet?
Well, yeah, no, but as soon as you got in, I already was because
Okay.
you're a good enough team that anything can happen, right? And depending on what the matchups are, yeah, no, is when you guys got in, I already had it because the way that your trench play is, you guys have a chance with anybody, and I've told you that from the first time we came on in week 0. I was worried about you guys. I thought you'd fuck around and find a way to Charlotte. You didn't, but you got into the playoff, and I've been worried since you got in. If I'm being 100% honest, and it
Respect
sucks.
it.
It sucks. It really sucks. I was looking at the bracket and I was like, man, if they beat Ohio State, like this could get funky here. Because like who really trusts Texas Tech? Like we all saw them do what they did this year, right? But like, you guys fucking scared of them? Because I,
No, I think they'll be exposed at some point because I think it will be
yeah,
next week. They play Oregon, no? So,
yeah.
yeah,
Alabama obviously got done a favor, like we all feel like, right? With that, I know
yeah.
like Indiana's proven themselves, like they beat Ohio State, right? Like I get it, but we all still kind of be like, yo, you're fucking Indiana, right? So like, I think, dude, if you get over this one, obviously Georgia, because I think we all think Georgia's gonna beat Ole Miss. Georgia's tough, man. If I'll tell you
No,
what,
and they're
if you
hot right
guys
now.
go and win,
They look really good
there's
right
no
now.
fucking doubt about it. Like
Yeah,
you can't dispute that they're the best team in the country if you guys go and do it because the run that you'd have to make is honestly
Like,
pretty crazy.
yeah,
be insane.
be insane.
Yeah, so despite that, I am nervous about it, Rolly, fucker. Um, of the teams that are left, who do we all trust the least? Is it Texas Tech or is it Indiana or Bama?
I'm still on the Bama train of trusting the least, actually. I still think Texas Tech has like athletes. I think they're going to be exposed a little bit, but I don't see a way Bama gets through that other side, no matter who they match up to.
Just to say a different answer, I'm interested to see how Ole Miss fares without Lane, with half of their coaching staff thinking about their other jobs simultaneously, see how they rally around actual competition. I'd like to see that.
And like kind of some of the emotion's going to be gone off that, right? Like all the vitriol that you have for your situation, like can you use vitriol 4 games in a row? Like I don't know. I think it works once. Derek?
I think Texas Tech, they have the most to prove in terms of like whether they belong or not. I think the defense is good, but they don't. We'll see about their offense and see what if they can keep up.
I totally agree with you. I feel like Indiana's kind of earned it despite being Indiana. I think I think Texas Tech's the biggest question. The underdogs in the next round, and obviously not you guys included, right? Because I know you're going to say you, but the underdogs are Ole Miss, Bama, and technically Oregon because it's a 4-5. If you had to pick one of those teams to pull off the upset, who would it be? Oregon, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
based on the rankings, I mean, is Oregon not favored actually in the matchup? I saw the lines earlier. I saw that we were 10
They
and a
might be.
half.
I just mean from a
Yeah,
from a ranking standpoint. That's
got
the
you.
underdog.
yeah,
Yeah, for
Oregon.
sure, Oregon. I mean, I look at Oregon as actually one of the most complete teams as well. I could easily see it being Oregon on the other side. Obviously, we want
Yeah,
the storyline a little bit. I think that'll add some juice to the run, but I also just believe they probably are the best team on that side. It's my opinion.
yeah, they're really good. Okay, so let's talk your matchup against Ohio State. I'm going to throw it to Dirk first. Dirk, please give me your thoughts, predictions, feelings for your matchup.
Feelings, thoughts, predictions. I like us. Now I want to talk directly to those bitch ass Buckeyes real quick, okay? Terry Porter isn't walking through those doors to save you. Okay, we got 23 years of biblical fucking karma coming your way. It's gonna be 4 quarters of pure hell. The entire state of Ohio might secede from the union because of how bad we're gonna get into that ass. And I can't wait. I like us.
I love it. Any further analysis, or we're just going to leave it there?
I think we can leave it there.
I don't want to say
I think it
anything.
speaks for itself. Go ahead, Derek.
Okay, I mean, I guess I got the luxury of following that one up. Man, I do. It's obviously gonna be tough to me. Ohio State, outside of my bias for Miami, I do view them as the best team in the entire country. At the end of the day, they're defending national champs. They've been building this machine for years now, and I still think they have the best player in college football, in Jeremiah Smith. So it's going to be tough, man. It's going to be one of those things where the key's going to come down to how we can affect Julian Sane. I know he was technically like a Heisman finalist, and I know he had a good year and all that stuff. I get it. I think he's a good player. But how much of that is, similar to back in the day with Ken Dorsey, like, hey, I'm throwing Andre Johnson and Santana, all these people. How much is it, Cardinal Tate and Jeremiah Smith, and how much is like, hey, we're gonna rush four, maybe five. You're gonna have pressure in your face. Like, can you scramble a little bit? Can you make a big time throw getting hit? It's gonna come down to that, and then hopefully Beck's gonna have to make a big play. He's gonna have to. We're gonna have to have a big play by a wide receiver, like I said earlier. Someone's gonna have to win a one-on-one matchup. Beck's gonna have to make a big play because I do think this defense is much better than the one we faced at A&M. Maybe not schematically, but just like dogs, like actual players. So we'll see, man. I do like us. I do think we have a chance to win, but it's gonna be tough. I'm not as confident as I was against A&M. But it should be a close one and it should be a good one, man. But I like our chances.
I agree with you. I think the stable is different at Ohio State. I don't think you're going to get as crazy of like exotic looks. It's going to be about can your guys match up with their guys. And like I said, unfortunately, you've got a great offensive line. But I think that's what it's going to be more about. And obviously, their corners are amazing. They go up against amazing wide receivers every day in practice. And your secondary is so much better than last year. But, you know, this
Oh
is a
yeah, it's a
unique
different animal.
test. Yeah, it's
These
a
are two. We're going up against two top 15 NFL draft pick wide receivers, like
Correct.
or whatever top 25. Like this is why you went to the portal and brought in all these guys and redid that whole room.
yep.
So now we just gotta show up and play, man.
Rolly?
It's been 23 years in the making, for real. Like for a lot of us, obviously it's been 25 years of misery in our fandom since that 2003 Fiesta Bowl. And for a lot of us, at least I can speak for myself, that's my first big memory. I remember in my Canes fandom. I was 9 years old. I remember literally crying as a little kid after that game. So this has been a long time coming, so I'm extremely pumped. I will be in the building. Everything is booked already, so I'm extremely excited to be at that game. But as far as the matchup goes, I mean, we can't deny it. Ohio State is, the class of college football the last few years for sure. And exactly what Derek says, they have some amazing, amazing playmakers on the outside. And I think the position group that it comes down to is going to be wide receivers and corners. Do I think our D-line can definitely help that out and negate it and make Julian Sane uncomfortable like we have pretty much every single quarterback we faced? Yes, but I do see the caliber of athletes that there are on the outside, and it's really going to come down to our cornerbacks, and I think our defensive back group as a whole has really shined, of course, and we have studs back there with Keontae, but, not only do they have, obviously, Jeremiah and Tate, Brendan Innes, and their tight end. They've used their tight end a lot this year. So how are we going to do that? We haven't faced a dynamic tight end like that, that's utilized in the offense to this extent. Is Keontae going to be left out? Because Keontae obviously does so much for us at the line of scrimmage. So it's just going to be a really interesting game. There's athletes all over the place on both sides. It's going to be a dogfight, and I'm excited.
And I think so. You said right, wide receivers and DBs. Do you think that it applies to the other side for you guys too? I think something that's really going to matter for you guys on offense is what Derek was talking about. We didn't hear a lot from your wide receivers yesterday, and obviously your run game. We know while it's great, sometimes that's the part that can be taken away. Right?
You're facing Ohio State defense that could shut it down for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what do you think that's just as important too? Your wide receivers versus their defensive backs.
I do, but I think I think it has the potential to look a lot like yesterday, and it's going to be a handful of plays in the passing game that lead to it. Yeah, Derek's right. We may only need one or a few of those matchups to win. I do think we could lean on the run game, and overall in a four-quarter game, it's really hard to play against our O-line for 4 quarters, man. They lean on them and they weigh them down, and by the third, fourth quarter, it's only natural there's going to be some attrition, and the defensive line is going to start getting gas. So I think the run game will, as the game goes on, open up more. But yeah, our passing game has to wake up a little bit and definitely have some good plays, and Shannon has to have some things drawn up. But it's just looking at this matchup, I can very easily see it look a lot like yesterday, and that worries me a little bit, but I think obviously the dome aspect, the fact that we're not going to be dealing with conditions, I think obviously I trust Carson in those situations to make the right read. But can he make a play? We got to see it for sure against a caliber of defense like that. 100%. You paid him for this run, and he's got the chance and he's got to do it. And Carson's gonna have a little bit of added motivation for this one, man. He knows who's probably waiting after that. Get to Ohio State, you get your chance, kid.
Yeah, I didn't even
Indiana
think about that.
proved that Ohio State can be beat, right? They're
Right?
not invincible.
They're not
They
invincible. There was a blueprint
They're
already. Indiana
susceptible,
definitely
right?
showed it,
So
but it was a low-scoring dogfight slugfest of a
absolutely,
game, Turk. So I could just the
100%.
way the way these teams are made up. I think that you'll see more and more games like that potentially because it's just the rosters how they're made up at this stage. It's good on good everywhere, man. So we'll see.
You
Well,
know,
let me ask you guys about that. Sorry, Derek. Let me ask you guys about that. That loss happening to Ohio State. Do you think that that's bad for you, or do you think it has no effect? Right? Like, do you
no.
think that loss came at the right time for them to say, "Hey, we got to take this shit serious," or do you think it has no effect at all?
So that's kind of what I was gonna say right now. I was actually talking about it with my wife earlier today. Shout out Leanne, my beautiful wife, because
Shout
she's
out
gonna
to your
watch this
wife.
later. So
Good brownie
so a
points
lot of
there.
people always kind of bring up that point. It's like, oh man, they're coming off a loss. Like that's not good. Now they're locked in. Blah blah. But we saw it with A&M. Their loss was a blessing. Like Texas provided the script of how to beat them: run power, drop back, play the zone, let Marcel read throw. That's exactly what we did. Now it wasn't perfect. It was super ugly because of obviously the conditions, the road aspect, all that stuff. But like they provided the blueprint. Like Ohio State lost almost a month ago before this game starts. Like that whole chip on their shoulder thing is gone. All Indiana did was provide a blueprint. Now, don't get me wrong, having a blueprint and executing the game plan and actually beating their players who are extremely good players, a whole different conversation. But no, I think it's a huge advantage that they ended up losing that game because nobody had beat them. So no one had kind of figured out the magic sauce. Someone finally did. So
Mhm.
now whether we can execute it and we can put it to play, that's a whole another conversation. But I think it's a huge advantage that they lost.
That's the
Huge.
other
Yeah.
thing too, right? So like you took look at Ohio State's roster and Indiana's roster. I think the argument is pretty simple. Ohio State's roster is way more talented top to bottom than in Indiana. I understand that Fernando Mendoza just won the Heisman, well deserved, but top to bottom, every position group, you would give that edge to Ohio State. So
Mm-hmm.
Indiana winning
Talent
that game,
composite.
coming up with that blueprint, exactly what Derek said, I think it does kind of give us an idea of how they can be beat. And then those position group matchups, talent for talent, should be closer between us and them than Indiana and them. So I like
And
us.
and the fact that they're coming off the bye, honestly, like going back to we were talking about it off camera,
Yeah, rest
before we
versus
started
rest,
recording.
right?
Yeah, rest versus rust is a real thing. They're obviously going to be coming in healthy, but first game in 26 days, that has not been a winning formula for prior teams with the bye weeks. We had a game after a 26 or one game in 26 days with the FSU scheduling snafu that they did to us this year that we played terribly. Like there is something to say about the rust, so I definitely think that's an advantage for us. And we're definitely not going to the same environment that is a Texas A&M 100K rowdy as hell. Even though I really don't think it affected this team, and I don't think this team is affected by road environments necessarily. But looking forward to having a little bit of more 50-50 crowd in Dallas in a couple weeks.
For a noon kick, that environment was pretty sweet,
It's
though.
ruckus. It was sick.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about it. They had like three false starts. Like the crowd really got into their offensive line and made them nervous. And we had zero. So that crowd,
Zero.
man, you saw
You
the
had what
crowd
one
tackling our
one delay
players.
of game that wasn't like intentional, right? You had one, I
Yeah, it was
think.
like the
It was on a third
It
down. Yeah, it wasn't
was it was the
intentional.
Carson one that was he gonna call timeout there? I thought he was gonna, but
I
it was
think
the
I
last
think he
timeout.
thought
We
Mario was
had
gonna
one
call a
left.
timeout,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's one
but
of those
Mario,
ones where the defense audibled after he checked too.
yeah.
That was
right.
specifically that I was talking about. So
Have you ever
not
heard
prediction.
110,000 people so silent in your life?
It's fantastic. It's
I mean, I
fantastic.
know December's the month of peace, but wow, truly
It was a
just
moment of
poetically
silence.
peaceful. Incredible.
That's awesome. All right, so not prediction yet. I'm going to ask you that next, but I just want to know: do you guys think this will your game against Ohio State? Do you think it'll look more like what we saw yesterday, like low scoring defensive battle, or do you think it's going to be a higher scoring thing that you're going to have to keep up with? I just don't see how Ohio State only puts up 3-ish points, right? And I know the last time we saw them, they only put up 10. Like I'm well aware, but talk to me. What do you guys think?
Maybe not to the level of yesterday. I definitely don't think the 3 points, and that's on our side too. And obviously, the windy conditions is something that definitely affected the scoreboard as well. That's out of play. We're playing in a dome, so but I do think it's just going to be more of a defensive gauntlet, just because I look at the two levels of the defenses and I see elite everywhere on that side of the ball, and I definitely see where our offense can get stagnant. But I do think throughout the game, the offense can open it up a little bit more, and I could see like a 20-14 if I had to say a prediction right now. But obviously, I'm always going to lean Miami right now. But we got to see. We got to
So the
see.
medium-ish, medium-ish.
Yeah, medium-ish, medium-ish. Not high scoring, not super low like yesterday, but definitely more defensive battle for sure.
Derek?
Yeah, I mean, it will obviously, yeah, not like we saw yesterday, but I do think, and to give credit where credit's due, where Mario and Shannon have made adjustments to the offense throughout the year. I do think they're going to try to open it up early. I do think they're going to try to get aggressive and try to make some splash plays early. I'm hoping that if that's not there and they're giving us the run, that we just go back to that
Grind it
strength.
down. Yeah.
But I do think if things get opened up early, like we could see like a sneaky shootout game. But realistically speaking, like they're two top defenses. I do agree it's hard to hold Ohio State 3 points. I don't think we will, but I can see like more like your like regular game of like a 24-21 type score. But it should be. I think it's just going to be competitive the whole time. It's going to be a good
21-17, good guys.
Didn't even ask for it yet.
game.
I'll take it. I'll take it. I like it. What do you think rules the day for you guys, just briefly, Dirk?
Trench play, right? So that's been our identity all year long. It's the identity that Mario establishes anywhere he goes. And I like our D line versus anyone in the country because of Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor. So the trench play is going to be the key. If we're able to establish the line of scrimmage on both sides, I'm not worried at all.
All right, Rolly, prediction. You don't have to
Def-
give me a score if
yeah.
but if
De-
you'd like to, go ahead.
I think as far as the keys, it's probably defensive line and cornerbacks, like I was alluding to earlier. I'm interested to see if we get Damari back. Not too much came out on the injury, if it's going to be a longer term thing or not, but he has another 10 days, so hopefully he's ready just because of his style. We have Xavier Lucas, a bigger body as well for Jeremiah, but, they have three of them, two of them at least, bigger body, great pass catchers. So interested to see that matchup for sure. But I think at the end of the day, if we win, it's because our D-line wins the day at the end of the day.
Did you give a score or do you have a score?
I said one earlier, 20-14 is probably where I'm leaning right now, but have to do a deep dive, and my score predictions and my feelings towards games naturally just progress the closer. I'll be more like Dirk the day before the game. I'll be confident as hell that we're going to put up 50 and we're limiting them to
But
three.
also about to throw up right before kickoff.
Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt. On the way in.
Derek, prediction?
Man, so just quickly on the keys as well, I think it's going to come down to Keontae Scott and Bryce Fitzgerald, similar to this game. I know everyone's talking about the trenches. Like the trenches are going to cancel themselves out. These two teams are built the same. The trenches, they're going to do their thing. I'm not necessarily worried about that. I don't necessarily think there's a clear advantage either way. But the difference and what was the difference yesterday, I think at the end of the day, when you're going up a team that theoretically has more talent than you, like it's which one of those guys are going to make the big play, the fumble, the interceptions, getting those costly turnovers or making a big time sack when a guy's about to break loose. And we saw yesterday Keontae Scott, like that guy hasn't played in 3 weeks. He comes back day one and he got the whole entire defense, which is different with him there. Like he gets us going. He's always making big plays. He kind of has that honey badger to
Tackling
him
space.
where he's, yeah, like
Yeah, man.
tackling in space. Like these guys have athletes on the outside. Tackling in space can be huge. And he's a sneaky blitzer where you go four and then you sneakily blitz him on the side. That's going to affect Sane a lot. So I think those two guys are kind of the key to this game because we're going to pressure them. We're going to do what we do. One of those guys needs to make one or two big plays to kind of slow down that dynamic offense they have. But yeah, I mean, I think we win. Like I said before, 24-21. It's going to be close. It's going to come down to Carter Davis. He's going to redeem himself. He's going to make like a 60-yarder. It's going to be sick.
Redemption arc would go crazy.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Well, we will be back next week. Hopefully, it's me reaching out to you guys, asking if you guys want to do the show. You guys were super eager, but here we are. We did it. We got it done. So the first round's officially in the books. Some teams proved why they belong. Others found out they didn't. and others are still arguing about why they should have got in. But we will be back next week with another episode of the pod. Thank you, boys. I appreciate you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
man.
boys.
Go
Go Canes,
Canes.
baby.